One of my favorite pictures we used to have in our house is about two men who are on a country-like road. They're heading on their way to Emmaus, which is a small town about 7 miles away from Jerusalem. The title of the artwork is Men on the Road to Emmaus. And that's a favorite picture of mine because of what it stands for symbolically. Jesus had risen from the dead. And these two men, we never met them before this moment, but they had heard that Jesus had been risen from the dead. They'd gotten that good news. But yet they weren't really sure. I mean, they were in doubt. It's a bit hard thing to think about. So anyway, they're on the road, and then suddenly Jesus appears to them, and he starts talking to them. They still did not recognize him until later on in this event described in Luke chapter 24. So they walk along and they talk along, and it finally is revealed to them that it is Jesus. When I think about this picture, I remember that Jesus is the kind of person who, even after his resurrection, appears to people who are not well known. They were rather insignificant people. We don't know much about these men, but they had heard from Peter, James, John, the apostles, other disciples, that Jesus had risen from the dead. Here Jesus is speaking to these men, and they feel close to him finally at the end of the story. He opened their eyes. My prayer is that your eyes will be open to a couple of important things. Number one, remember that Jesus always befriends those who even all are obscure people, not well-known people. Let's remember, it was Jesus who appeared to a widow woman on the way to Nain, her small town, and her son had died, and Jesus stopped by and raised her son from the dead. We don't know her name. We never meet her again, but yet he impacted her in that way. We remember that Jesus appeared to a blind man, a man who had been blind all of his life. We don't know his name, but yet Jesus was there, changing his life. We know that Jesus, for example, appeared to a crippled man. They lowered him down through the ceiling of a house. There was a great crowd of people there. Jesus forgave his sin and told him to take up his bed and walk, and he did, and he walked through the crowd. Again, someone whose name we did not know. And so I draw your attention to Thomas, the one who doubted. Perhaps you've doubted some yourself. Let's remember that Jesus loved Thomas anyway, and he loves you and me anyway when there are doubts in our lives. Even if there are doubts, he is there and he cares. And so Thomas met Jesus. Jesus said, "Look, put your hand in my hole in my side and look at the nail-scarred hands that I have." When Thomas saw that, he fell down and he said, "My Lord and my God." And so my prayer is that each one of us during this Easter season will remember that Jesus appears to the obscure people, the unknown people, the unimportant people to the world. He cares about you and he cares about me. He can do that because he is alive today. As we approach Easter, let's rejoice that Jesus loves even me.